and we had Nikki. And we're very fortunate to have Nikki. To me, Nikki is the best sports nutritionist in the country, but others nutritionists might have something to say about that. But actually, Nikki doesn't know it, but I've known her from a long time because I went to see her many years ago, before she became known as Nikki the Evil Diet Witch, which I didn't even realise until I Googled her the other week, because I thought I better get a bit more background on Nikki, and found out that everywhere you go she's called the Diet Witch, and yet I don't know why. Because I've met a number of nutritionists over the years, and she's the only one to me that speaks normal language, that is actually basic, down to earth, and knows her stuff. And if you go on to Google and research her, you'll realise that she actually is probably the most, what's the word? The best anyway. She's got more degrees, and she's done a degree in, what was it in? Something to do with
Hyponatremia.
Yeah.
Water overload for you lot.
Yeah, water overloading woman. So she's really down to the specifics of sports nutrition. Now Nikki actually had a, she keeps saying actually, Nikki had a PowerPoint presentation to give you, but unfortunately we've got no PowerPoint here, so she's winging it. So let me introduce you to Nikki.
Crikey, that's an intro. G'day everybody. Yep, I'm Evil Diet Witch. It's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me. It is kind of funny after 20 years in the business being mean to people about food. It's quite fun. And you can spend all the money with those guys, that's really good, but it's still your ass that makes that wheels go round, and if I can take some weight off that ass, then I'm probably going to So let's talk nutrition, people. Right. Okay, so I trained as the Evil Diet Witch, and I did my degree down in Otago. And nutrition is evolving, and I'm sure you guys all know Dr. Google very well. There's a plethora of information out there, and there's a lot of conflict around nutrition at the moment. So I've got a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to give the guys here that you guys can take away. So I'm going to talk more ad lib about what I'm going to do with your nutrition for an Ironman event. So let's have a wee look. Well, it's not the kind of event you wake up the day before and go, sweet, let's go do this. Feels like a good day. I'm going to get up and do an Ironman, and I've never swum, bike or run in my life. So that's not what you do, because you train. And you train your breathing, and you train your swimming, and you train your muscles, and you train your mind to deal with this event. But did you train your gut? And this is the biggest question that I have for lots of people, because just because you've eaten for how many years you've been on this earth as a non-athlete doesn't make you know how to eat as an athlete. And that's the biggest conundrum I face when feeding people, because they come to me and or they'll come to me with a perfect food diary, and I'll go, yeah, that's nice, now tell me what you really ate, because that's quite fun too. So, you know, there's this whole kind of, and you are all A-type personalities, because otherwise you wouldn't put your hand up to do Ironman, you nutty creatures. So that's what makes you who you are. You know, you like that kind of thing, but my job is to make sure that you don't get sucked into the hype, because I have people that bring me in bags of supplements, bags of them, and go, right, Nick, I'm ready for Ironman, and I want you to look at all of this. And I'm going, yeah, but have you had breakfast? Do you eat breakfast? What about bread? Should we talk about bread? And because everybody wants to go to the top end first, they really want to talk about all that stuff, but they haven't got the basics right, and I worry about that. So just because you've done it your whole life doesn't mean you've got it right, and nutrition is evolving. And there's some stuff going on out there in the media at the moment too. There's that whole kind of training your gut to do fat adaptation on low carbs and stuff, and we muck around with athletes. When I trained, now I don't want to see any of you, I often work in medical, I work with Giles at medical at the end of Ironman. If I see any of you faces in there for anything to do with nutrition, so help me, you are in so much trouble, so that's why you're at this talk. Because there's stuff you pick up from people that you train with, or you've seen this trainer and he said to try this thing, or oh, I've never used gels before but I'm going to use them on race day, or whatever, because we get plenty of that as well. And you have got to train your gut, and your gut is completely different from yours and yours, you've got this wonderful living bacterial organisms that are living there that are highly individualized to you. They only work for you, they don't work for anybody else. So you can actually train it to accept an awful lot of things. But if you don't get it right, or you think you have it right, and then you take it out into a race condition where you're all nervous, it won't work. So we have to kind of get you through this. So, I'm worried because there seems to be this quest for people who want to lose weight and do Ironman, and so they severely energy restrict themselves and then go out and do high intensity exercise. And there's a wonderful article that's just been released in PubMed 2 days ago that has finally come out and said that if you severely starve yourself or you really energy restrict yourself and do high intensity exercise, it will in fact impair metabolic rate long term. We know that now. So it's about time that study was done. And it's something I've been thinking about for a long time. So if your quest is trying to do Ironman and lose weight, which people often wander into my office and say that to me, I'm like, actually just let the nutrition do its thing. And the weight will change as you train, as you evolve through your program. And yeah, someone like me will come along and measure you, and that's what we do. We tend to, a lot of my clients come in and I'm like, so have you got your best undies on? And they're like, oh crikey, here we go. And we strip them all off and we body fat test them and all the rest of it. I had some Air Force guys come in, they'd been flying whatever they were, and they came in Zoom suits the other day, and I said, right, get your gear off, a couple of them are doing Ironman. Yeah, nah, we can't. I'm like, why is that? We're commando. Oh my God, I don't need to know that. You know, I won't be body fat testing you lot today. But it's a really nice way for me to have a look at you compositionally. And I guess with 20 years, I've seen changes and adaptations to muscle mass over time. And it's really fun seeing you change. And I think a lot of clients don't like initially those first ones, but it's wonderful when you come to so close to an Ironman. I've done it for so many years now, where by the end of it, you're looking back historically at your measurements going, this rocks, look how much I've changed, or look at my power to weight ratio now when I'm on this bike, or look at my speed or whatever. And for me, that's the functionality of nutrition. I love that aspect of it. So there's that aspect to nutrition, but I want to talk to you about carbs. Oh dear. Let's talk about carbs, because it seems to be getting hammered at the moment. And if the only thing you remember about tonight, and you don't get my PowerPoint info for a long time, is I want you to go to www.ozsport.gov.nz. Yeah, I know it's the Aussie site, sorry. I shouldn't do that. So I trained, when I did my thing here, I then went and trained at the Institute of Sport in Aussie and stole all their information and came back, which is really good. But they have a fantastic website at AIS, and if you click on AIS and then click on nutrition, it's all there. And it's updated all the time, and I work with a bunch of dietitians, not only here in New Zealand, but in Aussie, and because of our close economic relations, we work together as sports dietitians. And the information from our High Performance New Zealand stuff is almost identical to what's on that site too, so it's updated a lot. And what I like about it is that it's grounded in science. It's not grounded in anecdotal Dr. Google information. And I know that there'll be parts of you that'll be saying, look, but I've tried this and I've changed and mucked around with my diet or whatever, and it works. And it might work for you anecdotally, but I can tell you that carbohydrate is the primary source of fuel for your brain and your heart, and the exercising muscles. And it depletes overnight, and you are left with about 20 grams left of glycogen in your liver by the morning. So unless you replete that, you are going to be busted. It's as simple as that. You will not operate well on low blood sugars. It is fun to watch though. I used to work in Les Mills. My first job was working in Les Mills, and I used to like everybody would come in and they'd try and run on treadmills, and they go, no, I'm not having carbs, I'm not eating carbs in the morning, and they'd run on the treadmill, and then you hear this ba-dum, 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 bang, ba-dum, 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 and it was their chin hitting the treadmill, and the bottom of it had fainted on the back of it, which was so much fun to watch, because they were trying to train on no carbs. And look, we will muck around with elite athletes at that top level, but you guys, this is important for you to work out breakfast, morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea and dinner, and carbs. And so what we try and do is look at what it's going to take to do that. And really there's a lot of carbs, and you might have seen me, I kind of put my head above the pulpit every now and again and talk about sugar. Ooh. get slammed for that. It's really fun. Because when I'm not doing the nutrition stuff and working down with Giles at Ironman and medical and mucking around and wanting to stab you and take blood and stuff, when I'm not doing that, I'm the low-calorie sweetener advisor for Australasia on toxicology for sweeteners. So aspartame, stevia, sucralose, fructose, all of those things, and everything that ends in an O, O's, is kind of the stuff I look at. And people have got really scared about that. But all carbohydrate is based on glucose. And glucose is a single unit of carbohydrate. And you need it. It's as simple as that. So how much do you need? Well, for most of us, if I was to lie in bed all day and not even play with the remote control on the tally, if I was bedbound, I'd probably need somewhere between 1 to 4 grams of carbohydrate per kg body weight just to lie around per day. If I was doing kind of a little bit of exercise, indoor bowls or something, I might do, 5 grams maybe. Top end Ironmen, top end when they're doing big stuff, eat somewhere between 10 to 12 grams of carbohydrate per kg body weight a day. It's like throwing buns at elephants. It's fabulous, I love it. And it's wonderful to watch you power through that amount of food. But there's some of them will irritate your tummy. We talk about poos a lot in my office. I know more about famous poos than anybody else here in New Zealand. Boy, I could tell. In fact, I might write a book called The Perfect Poo. Because we've talked about it with so many athletes about what upsets their bowel and what's good for them and what's not. And it's about what's going, like I said to you right at the beginning, your gastrointestinal tract is yours. And so you've got to find out what it's going to respond to. Now, some people are really good on white, plain carbs. Some people prefer whole grain carbs. Some people like a mixture. But you have to train your gut. You have to train it to accept it. And so when we're looking at your diet, we're looking at it from first thing in the morning through to last thing at night. And that's all about the timing of when you train. So it's, some people can get up in the morning. There was a wonderful triathlete. Remember Steve Farrell? Steve Farrell, yeah. He was funny. There was one day I saw him and he was tying his shoelaces and eating a pie and about to go running. And that just used to annoy me because I couldn't do that if I ate a pie and chunder. There was this other athlete that could eat bananas and do tumble turns, and if I tried to do that in the pool, it would come out my nose. It was revolting. Everybody's got their thing. So you've got to trial it, okay? So if we're talking about carbohydrate and timing, it all depends on what you're doing and what your gut is doing. So if Ben's got you kind of hanging out on your bike with your ass behind or up too close or down, I don't know, I can't remember Ben where my ass should be on my bike. But it's all about comfort apparently. You can usually eat quite well in that position. It's quite good. Stand up and run though, it does terrible things. Oh, bless. I used to have to watch you all at Ironman and chase people around who weren't very good at juggling up and down and what it would do to your bowel. So it's really important, again, that we train you through this. So we need to look at what you're currently eating and what time you train. So let's talk swimming in the morning, because most of you get up and do that ungodly hour of the morning. And oh, wasn't that right, Anne? You love getting them out of bed early. So how many off you eat before you go swimming? Nice. How soon do you eat before you swim? What's the time frame? All right. Have you found that there are some foods that are better for you than others? Have you worked it out yet?
No, they all make me feel sick.
Excellent, we'll come back to you. Anybody trialled things that have gone, yeah, that felt great one morning and was complete bollocks the next? Anybody trialled it on days like that? Yeah? What have you found has worked and what have you found that's not been so good?
My go-to is porridge with honey.
And how soon do you eat that before you swim?
Half an hour.
And has that got shorter and shorter over the time? It's like what you said before, that your body can tolerate, it's training your gut. It will start off hating it, but if you persevere with it over time, it will get better and better. But again, there's some foods you'll need to muck about with. Me, it's English muffins. Love them. If the world ran out of English muffins, I'd be lost. And I like Vegemite on one and jam on the other. I'm quite particular about how I do it. And I drink sports drink with mine. However, I've got trampolinists, for example. If we bounce them up and down on that's not good with sports drink. Oh, it's really bad. So again, it's all about what you're doing if you're swimming versus if you're running. And that leads me to gels and drinks. and all things sporty and chewy and gooey. Because there's a lot of blog talk and a lot of academic talk about what is perfect for you in a race state or a training state. And the purists at the moment are going, well, actually, we would rather you eat your food and drink water or electrolytes, and we'd rather you chew and use your food that way. There's the others that are going, well, hang on a minute, we've been throwing carbs and drinks and electrolytes for ages and ages, and it's a fast and a practical way to get food in. And both solutions are right, but only you will know which one's right for you. Or someone like me will train you through what is going to be right for you. And all you need to know is that, in general, as a first-time triathlete doing an Ironman event, your body's going to chew through a lot of calories in that day. And we know that you're going to kind of consume between 30 to 60 odd grams of carbohydrate per hour. There's roughly 30 grams of carbohydrate in a banana, the bottom end. That's a lot of bananas. You'd have a picnic basket on the back of your bike for that. So you've got to think of this in a practical term. And you also need to know that solid food takes longer to digest in that gut than a liquid. But then you've got a problem too with if things are gooey and you've had it and you've been out there for hours and hours and hours on end, it can feel really grotty in your gut as well. So a mixture is really important. And if you talk to anybody and you start having a look at people who've done this for a long time, they've mucked around with their diets. I mean, you've mucked around with your diet a lot of the time, haven't you? And so, you know, there's a part of me that's going, I like the idea of you eating, because when you're in an aerodynamic position on a bike, you have more opportunity then to eat some solid food when you're out there, and that's quite cool. We like that. But we also need to get the timing right, because I don't want you having a picnic out there and then expecting to get off that bike and go for a run, because that's going to end in all sorts of drama. So it's the timing, and we will often play around and we will wean you off stuff in the last hour. I mean, we play around with your diet and time and your expected time for an Ironman, and I know exactly what grams of carbohydrate you're having right through that race. So if I see you out on the course and you're not doing what I want you to be doing, by hokey, I'm yelling at you like you have no idea. Why aren't you through that? Rah, rah, rah. It's kind of that's what you're going to be getting. Because I know that if you don't get it right on the bike, for example, your run's history. And that's really important. The other thing is the whole kind of, what fluids do I drink? What do I drink? How much do I drink? There's major, major conflict at the moment between massive academic professors on this across the globe. Drinking to thirst versus drinking to a protocol. And again, I think drinking to thirst has its merits, but you have to practice that. And most people don't know what their actually thirst is. By the time you're thirsty, you can actually be a 2% dehydrated. If you're 2% dehydrated, there's a drop in 10% in performance. That's a lot when it comes to timing. So if you don't do this, you know, like we practice weighing you. I don't like, you know, I don't do it with kids, but I do it with you guys. Like I will weigh you before and after long rides and before and after long runs to determine how much sweat you've lost, to determine how much I need to replace. But there's another equation that if you don't just replace what you've lost, you replace 1.5 times because you continue to sweat. Have you ever had a shower? You know when you've come in from a race, no, you come in from a shower, you've had a shower, and then you stand still again and you break out in that sweat all over again. You go, oh man, I've got to go back in the shower. You're continuing to lose sweat. And my master's degree was in a thing called Hyponatremia, which is water overload. And it happens to, and I've been very lucky, the Ironman crew, that's where I did my work. I got to blood test people, it was so much fun. But it was a couple of years ago now. It must be time for another one again. Where we got to measure athletes and we did all sorts of tests to see what was happening, and we found that hyponatremia or water overload occurs in the slowest or the last quarter, the last half to quarter of competitors. So the slower races, meaning that they have more opportunity to drink, and they tend to drink more when they're out there because they're tired. So then that's the equations that we're having now with sports drinks. Do we give you sports drinks, or do we give you electrolytes, and do we give you salt tab? You know, like there's a lot of information out there. And although I want to be quite prescriptive with you tonight, I can't be prescriptive because you're highly all individual. But there are certain things that you need to think about. You need about 30 to 60 grams of carb per hour that you're out. You need to practice with that. You need to practice maybe solids on the bike versus a lot of liquids so that you can see how that feels in your tummy. You need to play around with it. You know, you need to find things that you're going to like. I remember I've been looking after some well-known international triathletes for a long time now, and they start off on something like banana, and they'll eat that, and then they'll toss that because they don't want to be eating that for the rest of the day, because, you know, banana in your back pocket, it goes all mushy and yeah. And then it's about what else can you eat. I've got people that go out there and they're sick to death of sweet stuff, so start eating Vegemite sandwiches because they taste really good. And there's nothing better than a white Marmite sandwich, so good, because you're sick of the sweet taste in your mouth, you know. And, or it could be, you know, I've got other people that go, you know, I want nuts. I'm like, really? Protein delays digestion, and so does fat. So you have to be very careful. Ooh, can do some very bad things to your bowel. But it can also help if you're going to be out there for a long, long, long time, because you're missing meals, you know.
I heard about an ultra-marathon guy who eats a baked potato.
Yeah, and Melissa Moon, the runner, the crazy blue eyeshadow. I loved her eyeliner, it was fabulous. She eats cold cooked potatoes, salted, and we love salt. Salted cold cooked potatoes rock. I had a Japanese competitor who used to make little sushi rice bowls with the rice and salt. That was good too. I don't run well on rice, but everybody's different. You've got to find your own thing, you know. And potatoes are good because they are high GI carbs that are they'll absorb quite quickly. But again, you have to be careful. We don't want them with the skins on because the fibre, bad. I've got other people that prefer liquid meal replacements, and I know that years ago, when you're getting nervy, you know, when you get nervy and you know you need to eat but you can't because your stomach hurts and you think you're going to vomit, or worse. If you're like me, you spend, you know, you go to the loo 4 times before the start, at least 4. It's kind of like a liquid meal is quite useful because it's low residue. So you only need to drink about this much, chuck it in, and it sticks to your guts. We give it to our gymnasts who need to tumble because it doesn't, you know, sometimes when you're out there and you're doing stuff and you can hear stuff sloshing around here, it just doesn't feel right at all, does it? Liquid meals don't, it's like concrete, it sticks. And the kind of stuff we use is things like sausage and sport, because it's like chocolate milk, and that's how we use it. So what I'm getting at is it's highly individualized. You need to play with it. You need to keep diaries. You need to see how your food is evolving. Your food will change in the winter to the summer. You know, I know that you guys are really bollocks at drinking fluids in the wintertime because you feel cold and you don't really want as many sports drinks or as water, and your hydration goes down, and if you're peeing and it's yellow and it's still lunchtime and you haven't had a multivitamin, because that's scary, because that'll whee. But if you haven't had a multivitamin and your urine is still really dark, then that's not a good indication of your urine status or your hydration. So there's all these things, you know, we get you to look down a lot when you're on the toilet, for me, and we get to start analysing your food. Because the food that you might have eaten as a well non-athlete, which included high fibre, probably a little bit more fat, that kind of thing, was fine as a non-athlete. But it's not going to be what I need you to eat as an athlete. I probably need you to change your fibre intake. Because if you run a lot, have you noticed everything gets a little bit loose? Now, normal people are allowed 25 to 30 grams of fibre a day, but as a running athlete, if you start eating a lot of fibre, it's going in one end and straight out the other, whoosh, and you're not retaining the energy that I need you to retain. So your diet might become more white. You know, I've got a guy who sees me, he's classic, he's going, you know, Nikki, you've been the best thing because you've got me eating pink finger buns. He's like the happiest man on the planet. Or, you know, I've got this other girl who comes in, she goes, I single-handedly keep Ernest Adams pikelets alive with the bags of pikelets I eat. Because she says, I'm not going to make them, I just go to the counter and grab them and shove them in. And that's what you're after. This has got to be easy. You don't want to turn into Jamie Oliver in the kitchen. You don't want to be having to stand there and cook 1,000 lentils and mix it up. Oh, for God's sake, we can't be doing this. You've got to get in the pool. Oh no, you've got a 6-hour ride to do. Oh, and you've got to wash all the gear. You noticed it's all your gear you go through? Yeah. So it's washing and cooking and cleaning and sleeping and training, and that's your life. But you've got to get it right.
If you've worked out a nutrition plan that is really effective for you for a half Ironman,
Yes.
how much of an adaptation? I mean, are we talking completely different for the full Ironman? Are we talking just double it and you'll be fine? Or are we talking...
The longer the event, the more likely that you're going to need a higher sodium concentration for that event. You are probably going to need to look at, you're going to slow down because you're going to be out there for longer. So we might need to manipulate the amount of carbohydrate that you're going to have. We might need to look at changing the gooiness at the running end of things for you. We might look at introducing caffeine, we do that, which we wouldn't necessarily do in a half. So there's a lot of things that we would do for an endurance, ultra endurance, that we wouldn't do for anything over 4 hours. It gets a lot more fun. You get to play a lot more. But yeah, there is no right, it's not just an answer of going, sweet, I'll just have double my food and out I go. Yeah, no, that's not always the case. And then there's this thing called flavour fatigue, where you've trained on all that stuff and you get to race day and you look at it and go, ooh, and you can't stomach it anymore because you've just trained so much on it, you don't like even the look of it, let alone the smell of it. So you have to think about mixing it up. And that's my job, is taking what you normally do with your food and mixing it up, but making sure that you're getting the recommended amount of carbs. And we still work on 45 to 65, even though I don't like to work in percentages, we still like 45 to 65% of your total energy coming from carbs. You know, but I've got people that eat a serious amount of protein out there at the moment and come to me by a Thursday and they're tired. And muscle needs protein for recovery, but without carbohydrate getting into the muscle won't do its job. It's as simple as that. You've got to put the fuel into the muscle, and that's where the glycogen is absolutely vital. And that's where your carbs come from. So yeah, so what I would suggest you do is we're going to put all this up there, and you know, there's going to be, I expect, you know, there's going to be lots of people going, are you sure I can be doing this? And what about that? And you can go onto my website, you can go onto the AIS website, the Ironman website has some nutrition stuff too, I think. But, you know, make sure your sources of nutrition are credible, is what I'm getting at. Because, golly, it's a nightmare out there. I mean, it's changed a lot since I first trained. I mean, I'm really grateful that Jenny Pierce was the first sports dietitian to be here in New Zealand, and it was her that gave me my start. And her and I think, were one of the first, because we're ancient, we've been around for a long time. And so I started working in sports by default through Ironman, and now I know that, you know, you're amazing creatures. You're really fun to play with. I love working with you in nutrition. You can spend a lot of money with Ben and Andrew, but you know, hey, I could make you lighter and faster just by being really mean to you with your nutrition. And then you could go and spend a lot of money on the bike. You know. But it's still your ass that makes the wheels go round, so just remember. Are there any things that you've come here really wanting answers to when it comes to nutrition? Because there's a lot of stuff out there. Yes, Benny, apart from your bike.
Too many bananas, one banana, 8 bananas.
A bunch, yeah, a bunch.
Is there a minimum or a maximum?
No, you know, bananas are getting a really bad rap at the moment. What? No, I don't, yeah, it's sad. The poor old banana. It can really hurt your gut if it's a bit green. You know, if it's a bit unripe, it can give you a bit of gripe. But apart from that, there's 30 grams of carbohydrate in a banana. High potassium. Nice. Potassium and sodium work together. Not so good for you. Potassium and sodium work together as electrolytes that push water in and out of the cells. We love that. But you actually have to have sodium as well. So if you're going to have lots of bananas which have high potassium, you've then got to make sure that you've got electrolytes going on, so in the form of sodium, so that you've got that balance going on. So yeah, you know, we usually start off, my crew will usually start off in that first hour and they'll do banana and sports drink and stuff for the first hour on the bike, and then they ditch that, and then we go on to sports bars and stuff and drink, and we alternate that through that first hour. And I'm a fan of sports drink. I'll be the first one to put my hand up for it. but there's some stuff going on with it too at the moment. A sports drink can only call itself a sports drink if it fits between what's called a 4 to 8% carbohydrate solution, and it has to have a minimum of 500 milligrams of sodium. We need it to have a high amount of sodium in it to do its job. Our concern is that there are commercially made sports drinks that are trying to fit that are at the lower end of it. And I can tell you that, you know, like it depends on the environment that you're in. Like when we were getting athletes ready for KL, for example, we took your old sponsored product, Hawley's, and we doctored it. We added much more sodium to it for KL because we knew your sweat rates were going to be higher. So not only were you sweating more, but you were losing more salt in your sweat. That's not going to happen in Taupo, but my problem is not all sports drinks are the same. So you need to play around to find one's view, or you need to find out what's going to be the sponsored product if you intend to drink it on the day, or you know, like this is what you need. This is a process.
So they have Hawley's on the Ironman course?
It used to be. I'm not sure. I think it could be changing, and this is why I'm saying it's good to mix it up. And I've got lots of people that only get stuck on one, and then my concern is if they're on the bike and they drop bottles, they're stuffed, because then if they pick up a bottle on the course that they haven't trialled and then get a sore gut, that really annoys me, because then you haven't done your homework for me, which was to try a lot of products.
What were those stats? Sorry again. What were the stats? The stats that you gave? 500.
So what we're looking is there's 4 to 8% as a carbohydrate solution must be the carbs that are in to be able to call itself a sports drink, and the maximum is up to 500 milligrams of sodium per litre. So getting up to that high level is what we're looking for, especially in high sweaters. You know who you are, you make puddles. I love puddles. It's, you know, and it's not, you know, like we watch people losing sweat, and we're looking at not only just the amount of water they're losing, but the salt that's in it. And what we look at is, you know, when you take your gear off and you've trained in the summertime, and you put it down and you come back to it and it's gone crusty, yay man, that's a lot of salt, and I need to have a look at what you're eating. Okay, so we tell you as a non-athlete, when I've got my hat on as a public health dietitian, I tell you to lower the sodium content in your diet. When I've got my hat on as a sports dietitian, I'm like, amen, I need more salt in your diet, because you're sweating. Okay, and that's the difference. Yeah.
Can I ask about gels? I've been told you should always drink quite a bit of water with gels, or it can get dodgy and dangerous and all sorts of other things.
And not only that, there's some stuff going on with fructose and glucose at the moment. It's composition of gels and the carbohydrate composition of these gels. I think it's all about preference and practicality. I know that on a bike, I probably wouldn't use gels an awful lot on a bike, but that's just me. I tend to eat more on there. However, in the last hour, what we'll often do is take you off solid foods and put you onto liquids for the last hour off the bike before we put you into the run, so that your gut's kind of empty, those tricks that we will do. And we might use gels then in that instance. But yes, you do need a certain amount of water with them to be able to dilute the carbohydrate content that's hitting your gut. But in saying that, the other issue is there's these people who sip a lot. They're constantly sipping. What you need to know is the stomach's this really cool thing. It's like this reservoir, and it's got these little things in it called osmoreceptors. But they're a bit dumb. They don't really do their job right. And they don't work right unless you throw a bolus amount of liquid in one go. And then it's almost like the little osmoreceptors go, oh sweet, I've got liquid. And then it will release that liquid into your small intestine. Nice, that's where we want it to go. But if you're just constantly sipping, that stomach will fill up. And then you're going to feel really sick, and then you will vomit it all up. Isn't that right, Eddie? And we see plenty of that at Ironman. I see that loads on the run, where people are just running on, sipping. And they get, you know, it's like, holy moly, you know, you're just filling up, you're like a pond. And we need to change how you do that.
So how much do you need? What's the, you know, how much is the difference between a sip and a swallow?
Well, what here? This one here. Basically, what we're trying to do, you know, on the little white cups that they have at the on the water stations or whatever, I'd expect 2/3 of one of those cups as a whoosh, get it in job. Don't run along with it going over the next 5Ks, that's not doing it for me at all, and neither is it your gut. So you need to get it in, hit that gut with it, make those osmoreceptors wake up, get it to release into the small intestine so it empties again so we can put more in.
So we're talking about
2/3 of a cup, it's about 150 mils, like a yogurt container worth. And it's this kind of stuff, like this is, as sports dietitians, this is the kind of thing that I can do. But I could, as Verna knows, I can talk forever about nutrition. I'm going to stop because it's 9 o'clock and you guys have been here a long time. There's stuff here on the website. I will be printing this off for Ironman, but you can go on, if you Google evil diet, which it comes to me. Although, you know, Nikki, Hart, nutrition is kind of the nicer way to go, but there we go. And yeah, so there's lots of us out there, but just make sure that if you're going to do this nutrition thing for an event like Ironman, I don't want you not concentrating on your nutrition and buying lots of flash gear and not getting to that finish line because you got your nutrition wrong. Okay? It's a big commitment that you're making to do this day, and I want the day to be gorgeous. And for the day to be gorgeous, you've got to train your gut like you train the rest of your body. Okay? Sweet as, nice to talk to you.
Don't rush off because I've asked them to stay so you can talk to them once we actually have broken up, but I'd just like to bring Maria up here, introduce Maria, who's the event director. Are you going to talk about the Tony Jetson Scholarship or shall I? You haven't thought about it. Yes, okay. Okay, so this, for those that don't know, this is the person that runs Ironman, so welcome Maria.
Know, my name's Maria Walker and I'm so pleased to see so many of you here. This is part of the start of your journey, and the journey is going to be amazing, and we are here and we are putting on the events like tonight to tell you that we are here through every step of your journey, and we're so delighted to see you on the 5th of March on that start line and then on that finish line. So the Tony Jetson Scholarship is a scholarship that was brought about by Tony's passing, and in remembrance of Tony Jetson and his and what he did for the sport of Ironman. He was a coach and an amazing man, and we remember him. So last year was our first year that we implemented this, and this is for people just like yourselves. So for those of you who haven't entered yet, it is for we are looking for particularly first timers, because Tony really targeted first timers, and it's for those who, you know, they have barriers in place that potentially can't get them to the start line, and so we as Ironman are helping get you to that start line with the Tony Jetson Scholarship. It does close very soon, so I think it's on Friday, so if you are thinking about it, get your entries into us. And so that gives you your entry and some amazing things like a swim coaching with Andrew, and some other bits and pieces like some accommodation to go down and train in Taupo, and other bits to get you to that start line. So definitely think about it. It's on our website. I'll email that out to you along with Nikki's PowerPoint tomorrow as well. And yeah, please have a look at that and take that and pass it on to anybody else that is still thinking about Ironman as well. And if they're unable to get there, and that may just help get them to that start line as well. Just a special thank you for coming along tonight. If you all have a look under your seats, someone has won themselves a lucky Timex Ironman watch, so have a look under your seats.
What's my seat? Not me. Oh, nice. Put that under those seats. Check that one.
It's in a plastic bag, so maybe you're along this area here. Oh, you're wow! Congratulations! And on behalf of Ironman, we can't thank our four speakers enough. We've learned so much. I thank them for giving up their Monday evening. They have done this for the love of the sport and to help you guys. So please, on behalf of Ironman, and put your hands together for our amazing. As I said, we are here for you every step of the way. We answer the emails, and we do take them very seriously, and we're always looking to help you. So anything that you have, there is never a question that we can't try to answer, and we will try to answer. Otherwise, we will seek the help of someone who can answer it for you. So please just drop us a line anytime. And thank you for coming up and giving up your Monday evening.